I had a free working damn streaming program. I forgot what it was. I don't remember what it was. Somebody got a good one they can recommend. I just tried to install this one and it didn't do jack crap. When it runs, this is all it does. So this one will be getting uninstalled. In fact, I'll do that now before I forget. Uninstall. Where you at? No, damn it. I don't know what I'm thinking. It's been a hell of a last 5 days. I'm finally starting to feel better though. So get this crap off of here. If somebody knows a better one, let me know. That didn't do anything. I had one, I forgot what it was. I had one installed, but I can't remember what it was. So let's make this thing, and let's make a little 2x4. I'll try to make this kind of quick, which I don't know if I can do anything quick. We just gonna this is a default box. This is what Blender loads with. We can go ahead and delete this light and this camera, and we can hit S on our keyboard when we pick it to scale it. We can hit X to go this way or Y to go that way. An easy way to remember which one of these is which is think of a pirate treasure map. Think of the letter X, like X marks the spot. Well, you know, that thing's always red, that X, right? It's always an X marks the spot, and it's always in red ink. Well, when you go to scale something or move it, like if you're just moving it around or scaling it, just remember when you hit your hotkey for that, which is either G to move or S to scale, just remember you can hit X, Y, and Z. Z moves up and down. X moves on the red line. That's why I said about the treasure map. Red. Red is X, so X and red. That's how I remember. I couldn't really think of anything to remember green with. I was trying to think of what's green besides go at a red light, but you know that doesn't really do much. So red's how I remember it, and blue is just up and down. You just have to remember that one. Blue is up and down. Blue is your Z coordinate. So we'll start off, we'll scale this thing like the shape of a 2x4, and I think that'll work right there, fellas, gals. I don't know what the she is to fellas. So we got this scaled. Now we're just going to give it a texture, and we're going to call this, well, I got to call it something I ain't called another one, so I'm going to call it a underscore a new underscore board. Maybe I've already made this, so I'll put a new underscore board. That'll be fine. So this is what our texture is, a new underscore board. Remember, it's all lowercase to help you remember so you don't make a mistake and forget. Next thing is hit Y or hit X and see where your green line's at. That's your ground. If you're looking at the other way, your red line is the ground. You don't want your object to spawn in the ground unless it's something like you're making like a bush and you want part of it in the ground. So what you can do, I started doing this with everything because it had, when I started making mods, it started to be a problem. So I just tell everything I make now, set origin to 3D cursor, which is this cursor here. Object, set origin to geometry. And then I will say, once I get it moved where I want, which in this case will be above the ground just a hair, I'll say, and it's not, I know I'm not moving it nowhere else. This is where it's going to go. Object, apply, all transforms. When you spawn in your object, that's where it's going to be, right in front of you, because where the yellow and the green, and you don't see it now, but the blue line, where it all comes together and converges right here is 0, 0, 0. Location 0, 0, 0. That's where you're going to be right in front of you. If you didn't do this, and say your object's over here, it'll spawn all right, but then you'll be looking for it. You're like, oh, why is it over there? So that's that. Next thing we're going to do is put a texture. So we already named the texture. We just got to give it a base color, which will pick this yellow dot. We'll say image texture open. Now I happen to have the perfect candidate for a board already on my desktop. I made my fence post with it, and it's already converted the file to a DDS, but don't worry about that. If yours is a JPEG or a PNG, I call them Pongs, it don't matter, just pick it. We're not going to worry about switching it or anything. We'll just leave what you got, how you got it. Now up here, you may not have this here open. If you don't matter, you don't need it. But if all we're focusing on right now is the viewport shading, which will show you the texture map. Now this object it doesn't know what the texture, how it's supposed to fit on here. And it's like in the other video where I illustrate where you basically got to tell like what side what goes where. Now you can try a couple default things, like you can go to UV. Well, when you get it all selected, go in edit mode, pick this up here, X-ray. This will allow you to select everything that's behind the object. If you don't have X-ray on and you say pick stuff in the front, it won't pick necessarily, like this right here isn't picked. X-ray assures everything is being picked, which works great when you want to say everything. I believe Control A will also, no, Control A don't do that. I think there's a hotkey to pick everything. I don't know off the top of my head what it is. So get it all selected, go to UV, and you can try the different ones. You can say Smart UV Project, not project, I'm sorry, Cube Projection. If it's a ball, for example, you can try to do a sphere or a cylinder, depending on what you're making. It's usually not going to work. You're usually going to have to do some work. So just best thing to do, you can unwrap it. Go to UV unwrap, and that'll unwrap everything. So now when you go to UV editing, all these textures are unwrapped now. Basically like you unwrap a present, and all the wrapping paper's laid out flat. So all these UV coordinates will be laid out for you. Now you don't have to have it that way for everything. Sometimes you don't need to even do that. But to make things easier, if you've never made anything, just go ahead and unwrap it, because there are times where if you pick something, you may not see it. You may see this here, where you don't see the entire texture. You just see like two dots in a line. So to just unwrap it, it fixes it. You don't have to worry about it. So for this tutorial anyway, just pick everything and just say UV unwrap, and it'll unwrap them all. Now the next thing is, when you switch to this UV editing while you're in edit mode, it'll split your screen and you won't see your texture here. You'll have to pick viewport shading again. Or you could just have gone into viewport editing and then switched it. But whatever the reason, you're not going to see it unless this is selected. And that makes aligning it even more difficult when you don't know what you're aligning. So up here, picks either vertexes, which are the little dots, which if you get into making mods, these vertexes, or what are known as nodes. The next thing you have in here is your edges, which an edge connects two vertices. And if you're making a mod, that's known as a beam. And then lastly, you have the faces, which are the now for this, get out of X-ray mode so you can just pick the top one. This is your faces. This is your basically like your polygon. This is what the texture's drawn on. And in making a J-beam, this is what is called a triangle. Your triangles, which that's not a triangle, but we'll get into that in another video. So pick the top, and yours may be rotated. It's most likely going to look like this. I'm just going to guess when you get into your UV editor, you're going to see something like that. This would be my first guess. So pick the top, rotate it so the orientation is going to allow you to do it the right direction. Just select the vertices, hit R, hold down your control key, and that will lock it as it'll click into place like 85. It'll click by 5-degree intervals, which I've already screwed this up because I was yapping away. And alright, so select them, hit R, hold control, and click it at 90 degrees. Alright, now all we got to do is just hit, with all these selected, hit S to scale, Y, hit G to move it, scale it just a tad bigger, then pick just these vertices here at the edge, hit G. Now here you don't pick Y, or you don't have to pick Y or Z, but you can if you want to. You can pick Y or Z, but we're just going to pick them and freely move them because this isn't perfectly straight. It's kind of at an angle, so I want to do that there. So you can see how that aligns that texture. We're going to do this with the bottom, the sides, and the top also. And like I said, some of these may be in the ideal position, and then you're lucky. You don't have to do a lot of moving around anything. We're going to scale it because we don't want any of that black, or you'll see it starting to show up there. You don't want that if you're making like a board. You want to zoom in. You want to get it like as close to the edge as you can. Now if you don't want to use the hotkeys, this is move and this is scale, and that's rotate. I got to where I got more fluent with the hotkeys, so it's quicker for me now. I think I'll pick a different board though. I want to be a little variety, so I'm gonna pick that one instead. So it's not the same image on the top and the bottom. And the sides, lucky for me, it's already right, stretched out the right size and everything almost. But this isn't really the side of boards, but it'll work. If you want to take a picture of a board, you can do that to get better representations. Yeah, I think that'll work. We got some nice little knots there on the side. I got something a little different. Well, maybe that's not the same, but yeah. And like I said a minute ago, if you're seeing something like this while you're trying to do your board there, and you see that's rotated the wrong way, you just rotate it. You can also, when you rotate, hold down shift once you start moving it, and that'll allow you to move it with very slow incremental changes. Just remember, shift slows it down and control locks it. Hey, think of it this way, control has got more control. You know, you can lock it in place better. That's maybe one way to remember. And think of like shift, like you're shifting into a lower gear. It's moving slower. Alright, maybe that's how you can remember it. I don't know. I try to make silly things that makes things easy to remember. But whatever works for you. Now it is true, if I hadn't have been talking, I could have made about 5 of these. I have a hell of a time talking and doing something at the same time. So we got our board done. Let's go to layout, hit layout up here to get back to this view, and we see we got us a pretty piece of lumber. Alright, now all we want to do now is, if you want to collide with it, we got to make a collision map. Now since this is just a very primitive model, we're just going to use that model as our collision map. But just remember, for complex things, you don't have to have a complex collision map. Nah, maybe unless you're doing rock climbing, you probably want something pretty accurate to match your model if you're doing something like that. But we're doing a piece of lumber. Now we got to get the folder hierarchy set up. Now the way I want you to think of this is like this. You have a folder on your desktop called scene collection. Oh, get back to my desktop. I've got too much stuff loaded. So this folder is called scene collection. Now you don't have to make this. This is just to help you understand. Scene collection. Alright, and then inside of this folder you got a folder called collection. And then inside of this folder you got a folder called base 00. And then inside of this one you got a folder called start 01. So this is more or less what you are about to do here when you get your scene. Now you don't make scene collection or collection, that's already done. So basically, as it is right now, it is like you have your cube inside of the folder collection. Like your cube is inside of here, but you got to get it inside of start 01. But to make the folders, which the game calls, or Blender rather calls them empties, you got to create them. So you go over to in object mode here, object mode, add empty, plain axis. Each one of these is going to be like a folder. Now we're going to add 2 of them. We're going to name one of them base 00, and we're going to name the other one start 01. Now to move these around, which you can see everything right now is in this collection folder, which is where we want the base to be. It's going to automatically be in there. So we're going to pick this start 01, hold down shift, left click, and holding down left click, we're going to drag it into base 00. It's just like moving a folder on your desktop, but you're holding down shift when you're moving it in there. Now we're going to do the same thing with this cube. Now keep in mind, the cube with this triangle is our object. It's got 3 different things. It's got this green triangle thing, which I'm not really even sure what that's called. I guess you can think of the cube as being a folder, but this is actually the mesh here, and this is the texture. And this doesn't change. You don't change any of that. In fact, you can close this little arrow, but select it, hold down shift, and move it into start 01. Alright, now that you got it in there, go over here to object and say duplicate object. Now if you don't hit escape right away, you're going to see it's going to want to move it wherever you know, but you don't want to move it, so you just hit escape and it'll stick it right there. Double click the name on and call it this COLMESH-1. That is your collision mesh. This is all you need to do to be able to collide with something. I'll get into making LODs, levels of detail, later, but you don't need level of details for something as simple as this piece of this simple polygon. Now, you can save your Blender file if you want to. I get in a habit where I periodically save pretty often because Blender seems to crash a lot. You can save this file wherever you want to save it. This has nothing to do with the game. I'll just call this board for tutorial. That has nothing to do with the game. What does have to do with the game is go to File, Export, Collida, DAE. That's the format that game reads for the models. And that's also the same for, I think 3D Studio even exports in Collidas also, but I don't know how you do your folder stuff for it. I found it pretty frustratingly confusing, but there is a template you can download, and there's also a template you can download for this, but that template will confuse the hell out of you if you get the template for Blender for the game, because it's old, outdated stuff. You're going to see stuff on there that they don't even use anymore, and that's all it did was confuse the hell out of me, because that stuff's outdated. They even tell you that somewhere. But now, the level that you want to put it in. Alright, this is my Ukraine track here, and I want to put that board in here. So my Ukraine track is, I have never messed with the default location, so this is where the game has my default user folder. This is what the game calls your user folder. It's not where the game's installed, it's the user folder. 23 just means it's the most current, it's the current, what do you call it, the current update. That number can change to another number as they do like a winter update or a summer update. But for now, we're using 23. Now, you may not have a folder in here called levels, especially if you've never made a level. It may not be one. There may not be one for mods either. So make a folder for levels if there's not one, and then inside of that folder make a folder for your level. But assuming you've already made a level, but even if you didn't, you can put this board in another game's level, but I'll have to get into that later and tell you how to do that. But for now, just say Ukraine folder, art, shapes, miscellaneous. That's where I put all my crap for this level, because I know it's all in here. I even got, I think this is from the other video I made. So this is where I put all my models, and I'll export to this folder. So in Blender, that's where I'm navigating to. Blender has a habit of exporting to a Blender folder or to your documents folder, but find your level, art, shapes, miscellaneous for the one that you want to put it in. This is where I'm going to name it board for tutorial. I'm not going to mess with any of this stuff over here. I'll go ahead and click through them so you can see what mine are set at, and the event you got yours checked different. So everything looks good. I ain't messing with anything. It's going to copy this texture into that folder, which is where you're about to go and hunt for it in just a minute. So export it. If you did this right, it should say at the bottom exported 4 objects, which is basically this folder, that collision mesh, and that cube. Now don't worry about the texture for the collision mesh, because anytime you duplicate something, it automatically copies the texture of a duplicate, and you don't see the duplicate of the collision mesh. You don't see the texture of the collision mesh anyway, it's invisible. So we'll get into the game. Actually, I gotta quit my game and reload it. You'll load your game and load the level. Let's see. Free roam, Ukraine. Let's go over here to the side. Now I'm gonna purposely do something wrong, because I know probably 70% of the people that do this will do this. So I'm gonna do this on purpose. I'm gonna go into my editor, hit F11. Shift C if you don't know, to get a free camera to fly around. F11 gets into the editor. Window, Asset Browser. Alright, now you can go through and look, and you won't see that in there. Now you see the folder Ukraine, but you don't see that board in there. You have to go to All Models, click it, just click it, and start typing the name of the what did I name it? Sorry, I forgot. A new board. Is that what I exported it as? Dang, no, board for tutorial. Damn, that's bad. Board for tutorial. There it is. As you start typing it, it'll appear. Now I want to put it in my level, and look at that. It's red. Oh no. No material. No material. Yep, I have nightmares about that. If you ain't seen my other video, it's actually the first thing that really irritated me the most about making stuff. Now the reason it's no material is because you didn't make it. You got to make it. Unless you're using the texture cooker method, which I don't use until they fix it. I'm not using it. So new material name, and this is where you will be putting a new board. That's what you call it, the texture. The material name. Sorry, the texture is actually woodguard.dds. The material is a new board. So that's what you're going to put here. A new, not with caps. It's all lowercase. Remember, I used all lowercase. A new board. Create. Alright, now this is what you'll get. If you don't see this at all, I'll close all this stuff. You may not have any of this up. Go to Window, Material Editor. Alright, that's where you put your new material when you click it. So once you do that, you see this pop up. You've got to pick the color map, which we exported that model to Art, Shapes, Miscellaneous, and it is a new board. I thought, no, wait a minute, it's woodguard.dds. Now you didn't do anything with this. This is just the name of the texture, which it copied automatically into the folder when you copied your model, or when you exported it as a DAE. There it is, woodguard.dds. But yours may be a different file, a JPEG or a FONG, but that's not to be confused with what you named it here, a new board. That's just the name of the material. The texture is independent to that. That's where you went into here and you picked the what you wanted to be your base color. And you went into here and said image texture, and you picked, you know, the image that you wanted it to be. So that's what it's looking for. So once you set it, you hit save material, and it ain't going to update it, and it's not going to. Save the level, completely exit the game, reload the game, reload your level, and it will be fixed. Trust me. Maybe they'll fix that one day. No, not grid map. I don't know that that's a bug. I don't know why it does that. I know it gave me hell when I started making stuff because I didn't know why my materials wasn't working. If I had just exited the game and reloaded it after saving the material, I would have seen, well, it works. There it is. Now, this gives me a chance to test something. I'm pretty sure that when you reload your game, it automatically rebuilds the collisions for everything. But, oh, and don't look at that ugly ass bush that's over there next to it. That's something that I was making, and it looks like ass. I'm not even going to use it. Okay, yeah, it rebuilt the collision. What I mean by that, let's put another one in the level. Let's put some here. Let's go to Window Asset Browser. Remember, pick all models. And I called it board, capital B, board. Board for tutorial. Now I called the model capital B, but I keep all my texture names lowercase. See, now it works fine like it's supposed to. Now, say you don't have your scene tree. You can get your scene tree, where is it? Window, scene tree. There's your scene tree. This is your inspector here. Inspector. This is basically what is related to the item that you got picked. Now, anytime you put a new item in your game, it's going to always appear at the bottom of your scene tree, right here. You can hit 1 on your keyboard to move, 2 to rotate, but don't scale it. If you scale it, you probably screw up the collision map. Some things scale, some things don't. Why some do, some don't, I couldn't tell you. But we're going to kind of do what we did on the very first tutorial. Just using 1 on my keyboard and 2 to rotate. So I'm not going to do nothing with that, or this actually for now. Let's get that out of the way. Alright, now when you're moving something, you may not always see what these are called handlebars. You may not always see that. Sometimes you have to unselect and then select the item, and sometimes even do that number there to get them to appear. I don't know, sometimes it does it, sometimes it don't. Things don't always work right in here, but you can duplicate an object by holding down Shift, picking a handlebar, and just simply sliding. Oh, snap rotate. If turn that crap off. I was like, what's going on? If you want to use snap, you can tell it how many degrees to snap. So if you want to have like a certain snapping where, you know, that's great for building some things. You can do that, but I never use snap to grid either, so it's not something I fool with. Never fails. You making a damn video. Never fails. Hold on a minute. Hello? Hello? Damn. Hang up the phone. Did you call? You said you called. Well, you called me. You didn't call her. No, you dialed the wrong number. You did it with my phone. Yeah, I called you because you do what you normally do. When I answer the phone, you hang up because you say my phone's broke. So I have to always call. I just called just now. You answered the phone, didn't you? You just answered the phone because I just called you. Well, you must have happened to hit the button right as I was calling and it answered it. I think. Well, my phone's acting like. So I think something is wrong with my phone because it's taking forever. It's taking forever to charge, and then when I was trying to call the pharmacy, it's got that automated crap where it's like, uh, where you're like, you say, where you're talking to it, and you say, speak to pharmacist, and then it says, let's try this. If you would like to say something, just say it in the phone, and so you say, speak to pharmacist, and it says, you know what? Let's do this. Hit the number pad for you to, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I know what I'm damn, so I think something's screwed up with it. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah. Well, I went to try to refill mine, and I said, well, you know what? I'm already in Griffin. Let me just see if they got it. Because it'd been cheaper if I got it at CVS, so the insurance pay for most of it. But I went there and they said, well, we'd have to order it, and I said, no, thank you. I'll just go to the next one and ask. And I went to one. I went to a Walgreens in Griffin. I went to a CVS in Griffin. Both of them said they'd have to order it, so I just said the hell with it. And I went to the one that's closer by the house, and they had it in stock. But then they're like, well, you got to come back at 3 o'clock. I'm like, damn. It's like, shit. Well, that's fine. Yeah. They shouldn't have to order. That's some shit everybody takes. They should have that in stock. That's like everybody takes. That's the problem. It's like, and that's what I think with my medicine too. It's like, damn, how many damn people I heard just when I was waiting for mine to be ready that I heard coming in there trying to get that same medicine, and it's like, how many damn people get this shit. No, I'd have just said no. Give it back. I'll take it to another pharmacy. Somebody's gonna have it in stock. I'm not waiting till tomorrow. I've been waiting 5 days for it. No, they had it. The other Walgreens had it. Yeah, they now the one I go to at Eagles Landing, they always got it in stock. I've never had a problem there. It's only well they suck anyway. I don't like them. They got some guy from Africa runs that one. I got into it with him about my testosterone when I was feeling that one day because I was irritated because he's telling me it wasn't it was early or something. I was like, no, it ain't early. I was like, do you know how to count? I said, So he looked. He said, "Do you know?" Saying, "Do I know how to count?" And I looked and realized I was a little early, but I mean, some of them damn pharmacists just piss me off, man. I mean, I mean, that's what they are, legal drug dealers, basically. But some of them look at you like, I don't know, man. I get irritated. Well, they won't pay for my medicine. I got to pay out of pocket for it. Yeah, I guess they figure. I don't know what they figure, but why do you think she didn't work just because I took her car? No, I dropped her off. Yes, I went to bed about 9:30. I went to bed early last night. I was like a little kid it was like a little kid at Christmas time, just waiting. Knew I was getting my medicine the next day. I was happy. I'd take 2 sleeping pills to go to sleep. And I got up early and drove my ass all the way to grip. You know what they told me? They was like, "Well, we're sorry. We don't know why they didn't call you and tell you it was ready for pickup on the second. Because I got to go in person and pick up that piece of paper, the prescription, and hand deliver it. So I go in there and they're like, well, it was actually ready yesterday. I could have got it yesterday, but I don't know. I guess it's good. I got a good night's sleep. I probably won't sleep much tonight. Yeah, well, no, I ain't had it in 5 damn days, so it's like real strong. Shit, no, I feel like crap. I already felt like crap. Just won't eat for a couple days probably. It ain't my damn fault. They should have had it ready on the. I mean, they should have called me. Well, they don't give a shit about individual. I mean, it ain't. Well, they don't keep many of them in stock anyway. It's the new law they got where they don't have many controls in stock. They always have a limited number, and they're not even allowed to tell you if they got it in stock. You got to go in person, and then they check, and then they're like, well, you could be wanting. Maybe they don't know. You may be somebody coming and they want to, want to know if they got you got certain this, that, or the other in stock, and if they do, you may be the person that comes back in the middle of the night, and breaks in and steals it. So they'll only tell people that have a prescription in their hand with their name on it. Check your license and look at it and say, "Let me check," and then they'll tell you if they got it. Yeah, I don't vote any. I don't vote. I don't vote anyway. I don't give a shit about that. Like, look at Cheryl. Look at Cheryl. She voted, and they said she didn't even vote. They found out somehow that her vote wasn't even counted. It don't matter who the hell they pick. They ain't gonna do worth a shit. No matter who is in there. They all got their own agendas. But I hope you finally realize now the last one we had wasn't worth a crap. Uh, oh, he ain't doing much better. Well, I told everybody that gas was gonna go back up. Already knew that. It don't matter when you, yeah. So well, damn, look how much money. Shit, they gave everybody what, $3,000 a piece. They can get that money back somehow. Yeah, I bet they getting oh, they're getting money too then downstairs for it. Yeah, did she tell you? Well, she might have thought it was. She might have thought there were one from me and one from you. Did you write a card? Uh, Oh, for the tree. Oh, that was nice. Who, from Bob? Well, he don't give any of it to you. You should tell the VA. Well, what did you do? You ask him for it? Is he not stupid enough that he realizes that they're gonna send it and put it in his name? It's still up to him. Uh-uh. Next time I come over and cut the grass, just tell him that my fee's 200, and then you just keep 180 of it. Tell him I went up. Tell him I got to worry about catching COVID out there in the yard. And my rates went up. I'm not going. How is Sandra doing? Uh, uh, well, well, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Uh, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Yeah, well, I still got a little bit left over, so I'm not worrying about that. No, I wouldn't either. There was a woman in there. I know she had that shit because as soon as she left, the pharmacist came out behind the counter with the Lysol and started spraying everything, spraying all the chairs, spraying all the airs, and they were joking about it, talking about if they could have sprayed her, they would have sprayed her too. Because people that got the shit, they're supposed to go through the drive-through. They're not supposed to come in. And I knew she's sick. She was sick as hell because she asked me if I was in line, and she said I couldn't even hardly understand her. She sounded so bad. Uh, so I was like, damn, I know she's got the shit. Yeah, I threw all of them down on the floor, and I told them to spray me on the back with that Lysol too. Now, when I was there, I went ahead and got the flu shot too. So and they told me, the pharmacist told me that from what he understands, from what all he's been reading, they read about, they get in new updates about the stuff. He said that from what he knows, that the flu shot helps a little bit too with the COVID, just like well, in addition to having the vaccine, having the flu shot also gives you a little bit of protection. So, yeah. Well, I was there. I just figured I was get it while I was up there. Yeah, I asked for it. Yeah, I didn't fill out all the stuff. I didn't put all my doctor information and shit. I just put his name. I put my address and answered their little check boxes, and that was it. Now I made sure they give it to me in my arm that I don't use on the computer, my left arm. Yeah. Well, let me go. I'm trying to finish something. So I'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow. Love you. Bye. All right, we got us some ugly construction here. Alright, now let me show you this, and don't feel bad at all if you skip through this. I would have skipped through it too. So let's look at something here. Alright, we hit something that isn't there. And right here. Alright, so that'll happen to you too. What you got to do once you get done placing your stuff where you want it, you have to go up to Edit, Rebuild Collision, or exit the level, reload the level. Now, I'll reset my car. I'll pick a better car than that. Honestly, I don't even know how to make my default vehicle change into something else. That's why I always got this same ugly truck. It's probably somewhere in here you make it a default, but replace current. Now something is wrong with my road. I think I have an invisible mesh road somewhere in here. Let me check something. I think I have a mesh road. Where's mesh road, mesh. This hasn't got nothing to do with, yeah, see, I knew there was something funny going on, some funny business. That's not actually my track, but there shouldn't be anything else screwing this up. Certain things will pop your tires. The game explains it somewhere where it tells you, like in the documentation, it tells you that when you're making objects to export into Blender, there's some very specific things it says about what can pop a tire and what you can get hung in. I'm gonna delete this. No, I'm not gonna delete it. I'm gonna stick it way down in the ground. Maybe just move all my mesh roads for now. This is why I usually don't I'll just remember not to save the level. Okay, rebuild collision. Anytime you move a mesh road, you got to also rebuild your collision. Or reload the level, whichever. So, the invisible object was the board that you probably saw me delete. Even though you deleted, the collision mesh is still there. That's that. Alright, here's one more thing. So you don't want to hand place all these. You want to paint them with the forest tool. You can do that too. Forest tool. Paint. Open your forest editor. In here you got meshes and brushes. Pick a mesh at the top. Say add new mesh. Now where you exported your object from Blender. Levels. Which for me was in my Ukraine art shapes miscellaneous. And what did I call it? Board for tutorial. Pick it, open. Alright. See, board for tutorial. Now go to brushes. Add a new brush group. You can call this whatever you want to call it. Hit enter though. If you don't hit enter, it won't save it. Now that's your brush. Now you go to add a new brush element. Think of the element as the paint for the paintbrush. So I'll just call this 2x4. You call it whatever, but hit enter. So this is the paintbrush. This is the paint for the brush. The brush is the brush. Actually, the brush group. The element is this. It's like the paint, but you have to have your inspector open, not the asset browser, the inspector. Now when you pick this element, you'll get an option to add a forest item data. This is where you'll pick that mesh you just created over there, board for tutorial. Now you can paint those boards on the ground. That's a lot of boards. Alright, now let me show you this. Use your mouse wheel. I can minimize that now. Move your mouse wheel to change the size of the brush. The density is how much it applies. Like you could have a large area and it only put a few of them out, or a lot of them out. That's what the density is. This erase here does just what it says it does. If you have the density low when you erase, it won't erase many at one time. If you turn it up high, it'll erase a lot more at one time. So that's what those do. Now there's another thing in here, snap to terrain. This is useful if you say you planted a bunch of stuff and then you went in your terrain tools and you say you lowered the height, for example, or you raise the height, which I don't think it'll raise the height. I think it'll only lower. Oh, let's try it. We'll raise some of it up and some of it down. So back in the forest tools, you got snap to terrain. Now keep in mind, whatever it snaps is only going to snap what's picked, which is this 2x4. If I got one of these ferns picked, for example, and I try to snap to terrain, it's not going to snap it. I got to go down to 2x4, and now it'll snap those to the terrain. But yeah, it even raises them up if it raises them up, if you raised your terrain. So that's what snap does. That's real useful for trees, very useful for trees and bushes and rocks and, well, pretty much anything that goes on the ground. So that's what that does. Now the next thing I'll show you is probability, rotation. Change the rotation to 1. Now with the paint, we'll just make the size 1, and it'll just put them all the same direction. Alright, this is the rotation range that it will use. Like, it'll vary depending on how much available rotation range, like up to 55-degree rotation down to 0, or all the way up to 360, which can tell it can spin in any direction, so that's what that does. The scale minimum is the smallest it can make them. You can make some like 0.1, for example. So now it'll make some small down to the size of 0.1 up to the size of 1. Now the maximum, you can change that too. So you can have some small ones and some large ones. It'll just That's what the scale minimum max does. If you want them all the same size and you want them all like 5 in size, for example, they'll all be 5. The next thing is the sink minimum, the sink maximum. Sink is basically how far below, like we said in here earlier, that the red line is the ground. So think of this. The sink minimum is how far in the ground it can go, and the sink maximum is how far in the air it can go. Now it is a little tricky in the way it works, meaning anything with a negative number goes up in the air, anything with a positive number goes into the ground. 0 being the ground, the sink minimum, say we want the minimum elevation to be minus 3.3. We'll make the sink maximum the exact same thing, just for this example, minus 3.3. It will put everything at that elevation, 3.3, to whatever the ground is at that point. Which the ground is lower here than it is here, so, but it keeps it all consistently at the same height depending on where your ground is. Now anything with a plus, which is not a negative, a plus, it goes into the ground, below the ground. So just keep that in mind. Now the next thing is the slope maximum. It can put this at anything up to a 90-degree angle, which is straight up and down. So if you tell it to only plant things at a 10-degree maximum, then where you have things that are greater than 10 degrees, it will not plant it. It will not paint it, which is here. Obviously this is almost 90 degrees. You see, it won't plant it here. But once your elevation is, I'm planting stuff, it's going in the ground. Let me change that back. That's why I ain't seeing it. But yeah, it's not going to plant it where it's a 90-degree angle, or if it's greater than 10 degrees, see 10 degrees, but it'll start planting it once the ground is, let's make these real small. See here, it's more than a 10-degree slope, but maybe it's like, I don't know, it's not greater than 40 degrees, but this is, see. Well, it's planted at the top, but let me make this more exaggerated. Alright, you know good and well that's 90 degrees, or damn near close to it. Alright, so let's go back to our forest, paint. So nothing. 90 degrees, then it'll start putting them on there. Next thing's elevation minimum. Maybe you got a bunch of mountains. I know these aren't trees. Folks are happy about that. You're cheering. Alright, so you got you some mountains. That's an ugly mountain. So you got you some mountains here. I don't know off the top of my head. If you ever get this crap happen, you have to rebuild or rebuild the collision, reload the game. That happens when you make real drastic changes to terrain. I don't know what this elevation is here. I can't see what that is, but that's what this elevation maximum is, minimum maximum. So if you only wanted trees on the top of this, for example, or boards, whatever it is, the minimum that it would put them, say, is, I don't know, 6,000 feet or whatever that number represents. It will not paint these trees until that elevation is met, which I don't really know what this elevation is. I don't know how to tell what it is. It's probably not 6,000. Alright, so I'll say 200 is the minimum. So it'll only, or 150. It'll only plant these pieces of lumber when the elevation reaches 250. But down here at the ground, no, that's not. But that's what your minimum maximum is, and that's what I think. The only thing I didn't go over is the scale exponent, which I didn't fool with that. Now here's one thing I'm not sure about. It's like, I know you have trouble if you scale an object like you make from Blender with the collision messing up. I don't know how that affects the object. It's gonna get on my nerves. Let me go over here. I don't know how it works, say, for when the forest takes over. So let me check something real quick. Collidable, yes. I don't know if it's gonna fix. Oh, well, this stuff, don't worry about this. I'll have to make a video later on how to do this stuff. This is how to use the basically that's in Blender, that's going into vertex painting, and that is painting very specific colors, which you only see in there. It's painting very specific colors on an object. Which I'll have to come back to this. It's basically painting a color on the object, and depending on the color you use, depends on how much the wind can affect it and make it sway in the wind and stuff. But don't worry about this for now. This will be a later video. I still got a little bit more to figure out before I can make a video on that. So yeah, collidable. Let's see if this actually does make it collidable. And God help me if I save this level. I have a lot of damn work to do to fix it, that's for sure. I did that one time, and back up your level often. Okay, it worked. I wasn't sure, but yeah, it does. I think that's it. I can't think of nothing else. I think I covered everything. Feel free to skip through this video. I'll go ahead and pack this board up into a zip file. So I'll also include the Blender file. So you'll have everything. Now, this board has not got the best texture. It doesn't have a normal map. It's not using PBR materials. That'll be for a later video on another day. Honestly, I gotta learn the PBR materials better than what I know them. I'm still learning that. So I'll pack these up. And I'll even include the texture map that I used. It is DDS file. Let's see. And art shapes. Now you still got to make the texture. Like I showed you, it's not going to load it automatically. Miscellaneous. Board for video. Board for tutorial. WebGuard DDS. And the Blender file, let's see, where did I called it? Board for tutorial blend, which that's also going to be looking for the texture. I've never shared a Blender file to know how the textures work with that. I'll copy all these into here and zip it. Now all you got to do if you want to just load this board is just put this DAE and this DDS, and you'll go into your level folder. Art shapes, no, damn it. Levels, Ukraine, art, shapes, miscellaneous. Just put the board DAE and the woodguard.dds in. I mean, you can put it in your art folder, your shapes, miscellaneous, but just stick them in there. The Blender file, you can just save that on your desktop or put that somewhere else. This doesn't work with the game at all, so I mean, you can stick it in there too. It just ain't gonna do anything. Now, here's the thing: you may not have a level yet. You may be wanting to make your own level, but first you need to like experiment with like one of the game levels. I'll show you now how to do that. It's quick. Just load a level that you want to experiment with. This loads quick, so I'm gonna pick the grid map default. Yes. Alright. Go into the editor. Just do one thing. I don't care if you just move your truck. Just do something like this. Or remove the spawn point. Just move something and say save level. Alright. What that's going to do in your user folder, it's going to, in levels, put a small grid. And then you got main, missions group. You got these different things. Small grid, just in the root. Let's try this. Just take this board and this image and put it in there. Alright, now reload. Small grid and create that material. Hit F11 when the level loads. Open up your material editor and say new material, and make that material, which was, damn, I can't believe it, a new board. A new board. Create. Now color map. You should go right to it and say open. Save it. Now go into the asset browser, and it's right there. It's not showing the texture for some reason, which that don't surprise me. I could have named the texture a new board. I did name it right. Yeah, it's named right. I did save it. Just save the level. Reload it. and it should be fixed. Yeah, it's fixed. Now for anybody that wants to use the texture cooker, that's where you don't have to fool with making textures at all. Let me just do this also. I know this damn video is long as hell, but anybody that stuck around, you may learn something new. Hey, let's go into Blender. We got our object. This will only take a second. All we're going to do different is change the name. Let me delete the collision mesh. We're going to change the name of this to a board dot color. Alright. I have to make that a file, a PNG file, which I guess I'll include the PNG file too if anybody wants to try this. I'd suggest getting GIMP. If you don't have GIMP, it is a great program. It's free. That's what makes it so great. Alright, all I'll do is just save this as a PNG. Which isn't something you gotta do. I'm doing it for you. I'll just stick this on the desktop. Actually, no. I'm gonna stick it in the... Yeah, I'll stick it on the desktop so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just gonna call it a board dot color. Oh, PNG. A board.color.png file. Just export. Don't change any of that crap. Just export it if you end up doing this. Where's it at? There's that PNG. Alright. Anything with .color.png, as long as the image is dividable by 2, which means it's the power of 2, which is his, is 1024 by 1024. The game engine will convert that texture for you into a DDS file, which means you don't have to physically create the texture. Just to show you that it is going to be a different object completely that is not already, we didn't already export it. I'm just going to scale this thing to something crazy that you know it's not what we made earlier, which I know that's ugly, but just make it duplicate it. Collision mesh. Alright, now we're going to put this in that folder that we just that the game made a copy of in the user folder of the grid map, which I showed you where it appeared there. Alright, I'm going to stick this new board in here. I'm going to call it, I don't know, block. Alright, the texture is called a board.color. I'm going to show you how the game will automatically convert this. Let me exit the game, reload it. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I screwed up. I gotta load the PNG into here. The one with the dot color on it. Alright, we re-export it. Block. Alright, now we can load that level back. And this time you don't have to make the material. that. There we go. Go to our asset browser and wait on it. Put that new object in there and you'll see the texture cooker doing its thing. Block. You didn't get to see it, but it had a green, it was black and it had the green something. If you look at the background, you see the texture cooker did its thing. It added texture to cook. It converted it, and it did all that. Now here's my problem with the texture cooker, and if a developer sees this, and you can understand my frustration. I can't edit that texture to anything that's cooked. When I click the object, I see no material for it. In fact, it's going to lock up the game. That's what happens. So maybe somebody knows. That's why I don't fool with it. Somebody, in case somebody wants to know, why don't you use a texture cooker? That's exactly why. That's exactly why, my friends. I don't fool with it. Until they fix it, I ain't fooling with it.